All right. So, hi, DaJuan. Thank
Hey, how
you.
are you?
Yeah, good. Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I really, really, really am excited to talk.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that we're going to have this conversation about job loss today. And, so first of all, while we're recording this, we're in the midst of this writer's strike.
Yeah.
So, how's it affecting you and actors in general? Like, what are you seeing?
Well, I think on that's a great question, writer strike. First of all, I want to make sure I say that I fully 120%, support it. I have been on the train of I feel like actors should have been striking a long time ago. Listen, nobody wants a strike. Nobody wants a work stoppage, first of all. But I also think that the money that's trickling down to us, the money that's happening for actors, even I've been on a streaming series for 7 seasons. You don't see it's not correlating, right? It's not there. So immediately what's happening is I think for actors we're not auditioning, there are no scripts, you know what I mean, and if we are auditioning there's few and far between right now. And it's uneasy because no actor wants to cross a picket line, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whether you There is a part in our contract that says we have to, right,
Mhm.
that we have to if we're already on a show, we
Mm.
can be in breach of contract, which sucks a little bit because
Mhm.
it's like, I don't want to cross a picket line. But I
Mhm.
also understand that, that's in our contract right now, a no strike
Yeah.
clause for
Yeah.
that. So that
Has
sounds
has SAG-AFTRA like put out any statements in regards to the WGA strike?
Yes,
Okay.
weekly
Okay.
right now. And that's one of those things that they say, for new auditions or for, employment opportunities, you have an option. Do you want to do that? Right. But for work, if I were on a show right now and they were still shooting, then it's like you have to, because actors have in their clause, no strike clause. I mean, in their contract, no strike clause. So they've been saying that, we got emails about that over and over again, and nobody wants to be in breach. So,
Right. Right.
it's one of those things. I often joked with a friend, if I had to cross that picket line for that reason, I would get there at 4 a.m. before any of the picketers got there, and I would be the last one out.
Yeah.
I would be like, helping the janitors and stuff, because I like don't want that. I
Yeah.
really don't want that. But I think WGA and DGA and Teamsters and everybody understands that is part of, we're contracted to do that already,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because the DGA or the DGA just started their talks today
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well. Right.
yeah.
So we'll see what happens there.
And we start ours on January 7th, I
Oh, okay.
believe. Actors start theirs on
June
January.
7th?
Sorry.
June.
June 7th. Thank you for
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
June 7th, and our
Yeah.
contract's up June 30th. So
Okay.
we are potentially in a space, and I, no fear here. I'm just laying off, the facts. We are potentially in a space of this could be really intense for our industry, with
Yes.
all three unions coming up for talks. And, my thing is, I think all three unions should be banding together to work together.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, the last time we had the strike was almost 20 years ago, actually, a strike like this, right? So, right now, we're looking at a lot of people who are out of work. We're
Mhm.
looking at potentially even more people who could be out of work, right?
Yeah.
So, it's actually pretty interesting timing because, not really knowing that this was all going to happen around this time, another coach, a grief coach, and I decided that we were going to do a Thriving After Job Loss retreat in
Mhm.
2 weeks, which is coming up in 2 weeks. So I really wanted to talk to you about job loss, and you have a very different perspective on it that I found really interesting, because you and I talked about how after working on an amazing show on Amazon called
Mhm.
Bosch, which is
Yeah.
one of my favorite shows and one of the only reasons I even subscribed to Amazon Prime
Yeah.
was to watch Bosch. And you were on this show for the entire run from
Mhm.
season 1 up until season 7, right? Like, what was your so first of all, tell me a little bit about being on the show, and then let's talk about kind of the aftermath when the show ended.
Thank you for subscribing to Amazon, because we for watching the show, and everybody else out there who has, as an actor, you kind of hit like pay dirt. You're excited like when that happens. I as you said, I was on from the pilot all the way to season 7, like the whole entire time there. It was phenomenal. You're working as an actor, you're making money as an actor, which everyone wants to make money. And as it goes up and up and up, I have so many stories that I'm so excited to talk about. But like, as you go up in your career or the seasons, money goes up. And if you don't have these conversations like we've been having about money and negotiating for yourself and standing up for yourself, nobody talks to us actors about this stuff, And so I have often said, around to you, I should say, not to anybody who listened, really, that around season 4 and 5, when other actors came onto my show that I'd have been on for 4 seasons and started getting more money than me, I felt a certain way. And I was like, well, I've been here for four years. But thankfully, those actors shared their money, what they were making with me. And I was able to go back to my team, a little huffing and puffing, but I was able to go back to my team and say, I want to make this as well. Yeah. And I know a lot of us actors don't do that. We're so happy. I have a friend who was on that series who stayed a co-star, and that is okay to stay that, but you stay at a certain pay rate for that because they didn't want to rock the boat. Mm-hmm. They didn't want to like say anything because we're too afraid to lose a job because of that. And so I remember saying, what's the worst they could say is no. Yeah. And then you can go back and they can say no again, and you can keep going back and say no again. But I think there's a little bit of fear in there of like, I don't want to lose this job for that. So that's a lot. I tangented there, but it's really important.
It is really important. And you and I had many discussions about it. And then, and then I love that there was so much transparency between actors, right? I mean, I think transparency is one of the biggest ways for us all to kind of get on the same page and to have more equity and all of those things, So so that's fantastic that happened. Yeah.
I would just say a big thing is we have always been told, and we have never questioned it ever, ever, ever as actors. We've always been told we don't talk about money on set. We don't talk about what you make on set. And they sitting there thinking that when that happened to me around season 4 or 5, I was like, why don't we talk about money? Oh, because then you have to pay all of us the same rate, or like you can get me and nobody's going to argue for my limitation, right? Right. Nobody will argue for your limitation. And what I mean by that is, if you are okay making $1,500 an episode, we're not going to bring you up. And actually, that's a lie. What they did was, and we can talk numbers. I'm just throwing round numbers out here. But what they did was, every year, say I was making $1,500 an episode, I was making more, everybody. But if I was making $1,500 an episode, they would bump it up to $1,600. I'd be like, yeah, I got like a raise. I'm so excited. But I didn't know that my co-stars were making $3,000 an episode. Right. When they were coming in, I was happy with what I thought I was like, great, I got $100 raise. Mm-hmm. And so the transparency started to really break that down. Mm-hmm. And I got what I needed. Yes.
And this is something that I tell everyone when we're negotiating for these deals, right, on different television shows, whether you're an actor or a writer or producer, whatever it is that if you don't advocate for yourself, they're actually happy because they're like, oh, well, one, we saved a little bit of money. And then the next person that comes in that is asking for more money, now we have the budget to actually give them more money, right? So you're basically passing that money on to somebody else if you're not taking it.
Right. Well, working with you was key, I would say, in this world, because one of the things was, I'm going to be just transparent here, is that I didn't know how to ask. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know to ask. Mm-hmm. I was really in a space of, I just want to keep this job. Right. I was so afraid of that. And I remember we had some in your group programs, we had some people in there and we were really diving deep. And one of them said, DaJuan, no is the beginning of the negotiation. Mm-hmm. And you said, I was like,
yeah. Oh, that was me. That's always,
that was you. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I always say no is just the beginning of the conversation.
Of a conversation. And I was like, and I was blown away by that. So you think about it, we're coming with actors, we're coming with the consciousness of actors pass.
Yeah.
That's what we're coming with. And we cannot in this day and age. And so to be with someone who is a money coach, to be with somebody who is not have my limitation and was like, no, this is what we need. I was blown away. So, I went in there.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I'm
Yes.
serious. I just want to say that was amazing. I remember that. No is just the beginning of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And, and in terms of, negotiations are the thing that I love to do. And that's why I'm also excited that, WGA is going back to the table and having these negotiation talks and trying to forge a better contract and a better result, and then now DGA, and then for actors, SAG-AFTRA is going to be next, right? So yeah.
I hope at your retreat, this is me giving out, like I'm just spitballing here. For actors, we can have a little part of negotiations don't have to be scary.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that needs to be somewhere in there, because I think again we're scared. And I don't put myself in that anyway. I have the wherewithal now that I talk to my team. Can we get a little more there? Or can I get like a flight there? Can we get I know it now, but I would say, listen to me, y'all. I'm out here asking, can we get a retreat? Can we get a little something?
Well, that's the amazing part, is that even when you have agents and managers who are advocating for you, you're still the best advocate for yourself.
Right.
And you're the one that knows what you need and want. Mm-hmm. And so it's so important that you're letting your team know, and so that they can go and negotiate these things for you.
Yeah. And I would just piggyback on that for everybody. Like, I'm sorry for this tangent here, is sometimes we need to be so good in ourself and our money story that we need to be able to spot when our team has a money block.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
Because
that's
sometimes
exactly.
our team won't go higher because they've never seen anybody go higher.
Yes.
Right.
That's exactly what I was going to say, because sometimes they're afraid, right? They're like, we don't want to rock the boat. Oh, DaJuan's been on this show for, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever season. Like, let's not rock the boat. Let's just keep doing what we've been doing, because, we want the paychecks coming in too. So, and then once they're getting the green light from you, and then and it feels like, yes, there's a strong reason for it on their end, then they're going to be able to do that in an easier, better way too. It's also giving them the tools to go back and do their job,
and understand that it might feel a little scary. You know what I mean? It might feel a little scary. And, as one of our friends used to say, do it scared. Like, do you know what I mean? Do it scared, do it with a yellow light. And you're like, hey, I don't want to lose this, but here's what I know other people are getting. Here's what I'm arming you with for this thing. And I want us to go back and ask for.
Yes, absolutely. Cool. Well, talking about scary things, what happens when they announced that the show was ending?
Getting
canceled.
Wow. This is interesting, because for the last 7 years, I have always had a sense of, even though I worked for 4 months out of a year on this show, I always knew the other 8 months, I knew I was coming back to that show. And I knew there was a lump sum of money that was going to be coming my way, right? Whether it's 6 figures from I just knew that I was going to be getting that, right? In my back of my head, because we weren't canceled. And when we were canceled, there's a lot of grieving that goes on with it. I'll start with, I had to grieve that character. And that I did not expect, because that was my life. That's what I kind of, everybody associated me with for 7 years. And so that was a big grieving process for me to go through. I had to actually do that. But one of the things that I did not, until recently, when we were working together, really start to really think about was, I'm down 6 figures because of the show that I just lost. Or not lost, that got canceled. So where money was like, for the last, let's go here, let's go to Mexico, and we can do that. And I've done a lot with the money other than just, splurge it. We've bought houses. You know what I mean? Thank you so much, Katie. But we put the money in retirements, and we've done stuff. But now I'm in that space of, okay, that was 6 figures that is no longer coming my way.
Yeah.
for right now, right? I am
Right.
clear about manifestation. I'm clear about abundance. But what is present for me right now is, oh, my bank account looks a little bit different. And I had to grieve that. I was like, why am I doing so many things wrong right now? Am I overspending? And I was like, you're not taking into account that you're not working on X show right now.
Right. Exactly.
So that comes in.
Yeah. And then for you to talk about grief, I mean, this is exactly what we're going to be doing at this retreat, is really allowing ourselves to grieve, right? And so there were two folds, like from what I'm hearing from you, is that one, you were grieving the character. And of course, I mean, that character of Detective Pierce, it's like like it became such a popular character that they had you on every single season, right? It wasn't a character that was even supposed to be there for every single season.
I didn't have a name, by the way. I didn't. And when I was in the pilot, sorry, that's not true. When I booked the role, I didn't have a name. I was uniform officer number one. Right. And I fought for a name. I was like, I'll do this where I am in my career. I'll do this for a name. And they came back and they were like, Officer Rondell Pierce. And I thought they were effing with me. I was like, Rondell? Who's Rondell? And one of the things that I just did is I just showed up and did my job. And they liked being around me and they liked the work I was doing. And, the executive producers would say, you acted your way into more. Right. And so we were there for that 7 seasons for that, and of course, like, I think a lot of that came into play too when I was thinking about more money, asking for more money. I was like, well, I don't want to rock the boat. I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm not even in the canon, But what the other side of that is like, if you're not supposed to be here and you're here now, do it to the fullest.
Yeah.
And so, it was a beloved character that I think that fans love, that fans still reach out to me and talk to me about. People on the street, wherever city I'm in, I'll run into people. They'll be like, Detective. It is a lot of grieving that goes along with that. And I don't think we talk about that enough, because what we do is we finish these roles 7 years. And then what we're told in the industry is go find your next job. Right. There is a piece of me, honestly, that will always be in the Detective Pierce world. Like, you know what I mean? And so I'm glad I had a chance to stop and grieve and really, really, really think about that. And now it's not compounded. There's another part of that process now financially, grieving that as well.
Yes. And then there's that piece, right? And so when it came to the grieving process, grief, if it's a job loss or if it's a loved one, it goes through those same cycles, right? So was there those cycles for you of like anger and denial and kind of bargaining and depression and then finally coming to the place of acceptance?
That's a really great question. Yes, all of that. It's so interesting. Gosh, I'm being so honest here. Hold on. My last season on that show was 6th and 7th season on that show. There was a lot of that, but I had started grieving the end of it before we actually ended because of a lot of money stuff. A lot of money stuff. I started to feel like I wasn't being taken care of. And then when it ended, I was like, but I want to stay. I want to stay. And I went through that. And someone, maybe you again, you're like, that was me. But like, that I can hold two thoughts. I can actually have been upset about how the money situation went on there. And I could also grieve this wonderful character. And so that was part of that process. And then, because I was angry and I was grieving and I wanted to be thankful. And I didn't think I could hold those two. And I think we talked about that of like, you can hold both of these. Katie, you've helped me so much. I'm just thinking about this as I relive this. Like, it's really kind of like, no, it's really good, right? Because I think that's one of the cool things about working with you is you don't just focus on money. You're talking about a lot of generational dialogue we were having. We talked a lot about like going deep about the emotions and other stuff, not just the monetary thing. And as I put those things together right now, I was thinking like, oh yeah, we did do all of that together.
You're also a person who does the work. You're all about walking the walk and talk, not just talking about stuff, right? Like that's why you're such a powerful coach as well, because you're really doing the work for yourself so that you can also help your clients, and the actors out there to do this work, because yes, all of these things are complicated, right? And nobody teaches how to process your emotions when a show gets canceled. And, you've been doing this for 7 years, right? Like 7 years is a long time, right? A lot of shows don't last one season, right? And then to have a show go on for 7 seasons and for you to be there at the very, very beginning is such a testament to the work that you've been doing, the work that you are doing both on the acting side and then also within yourself, right? Because again, like people love to work with people they like, right? Especially in the entertainment industry. So yeah. And then so with that grief, did it also come with some of that, right? Some of the grief around like not seeing your coworkers on a day-to-day basis, the cast and the crew and, all the people that you worked with day in and day out for 7 years?
It's yes. And I think the family part of it, people we really liked each other. Like, I know there's shows out there, you hear people we really liked each other. We really looked forward to those 4 months, coming back. And there is a cool grieving process. We still text. Like, you know what I mean? My partner, who is my partner for the last couple of seasons, we still back and forth and we still share stuff and we still do that. So I think that is, I miss that nucleus that we had there, but I also have, just because this is new to me, I've also, moved into this, but it gets to be something else, right? It gets to be something beautiful. It gets to be something like that. And so, I enjoy that. I was just on the picket line this morning and I saw our showrunner who was there. It was like, I'm so happy you're here. Why wouldn't I be here? Or I saw other actors, from it's good. And you still have that, I don't want to say I don't know if it's cool, the sorority fraternity or like a brotherhood, just like a family, right? I know there's so many, we still have that shared experience. That's what I want to say. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of actors on the WGA picket lines and and that's so awesome to see because it does feel like we're all in this together. And television in and of itself is such a collaborative medium anyway, right? Like, everybody's got to do their part. So why not really extend that to the bargaining elements, the negotiations, all of that, Yeah. So, well, what would you say now looking back on it? Because it's been has it been almost a year since the show ended?
Great question. We finished filming the show during the pandemic, which was a whole nother element, right? Which is a whole nother element because we didn't know if shows are going to come back, what was going to happen. And so we did that. So that would have been 2020. We did it in 2021. We wrapped it. So we're about 2 years later. So it aired later in 2021. And then they started the spinoffs and there. So I've been off of that show for a bit. One of the things that I might say is, had I not grieved and had we not done a lot of work around that, when I was asked to come back and reprise Detective Pierce in the spinoff, for a couple of episodes, I don't know that I would have done it. I don't know that I would have done it. Or if I had, I think I would have done it with a lot of anger. When I went back, to work on it, it was great. It was like awesome. I was like, hi. It was great to see some of these old family members, I would say, because it's, some of the old actors, but also the crew was there. And I was like, I could be open for that. So if I had not done that process, if I had not done the work, if I had not talked about money or worked on my money blocks, I do not know that it would have been such a pleasant experience. And that's one of the things that I think everybody knows about me is that I show up and my heart's there. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was there for 7 seasons. Do you know what I mean? So I'm really happy that we did that work so that I could get to more work.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great point too, is that, one of the things we're going to work through in the Thriving After Job Loss Retreat is to go through this process so that, yes, you don't stay in the place of anger or denial or, all of the things that can kind of bring you down or even depression, because that energy first of all, won't help you to get to the next place that you want to go to.
Yeah.
And then second of all, once you do land the next place, if you haven't processed all of those things, it can still affect how you show up, right? So because our energy is everything. So we've got to be able to grieve and shed those things, and then help ourselves to see what it is that we really want and have a different purpose, to what we're doing in order to actually create the next chapter in the next chapter, so that's really powerful.
I love that. And, I'm very transparent about it. I talk about it on my podcast about like how after that show ended, how I probably went through like a year-long depression. Like I went through a major, like I didn't know that I was, but it probably started on the last couple of seasons of the show. And like my body, I had weight and I just didn't like it anymore. And once that character ended, I was in a major depression and I didn't know that I was there. And then I just kind of like got help. I just had a team of people around me, y'all.
Yes.
Well, I can't do it myself. I couldn't do it myself.
Right.
I couldn't.
And that's what I'm saying. Like you've been doing the work, and so going through, and you went through those,
all of it.
all of the whole cycle,
yes,
as well.
I guess what I say about the cycle is though, like, right, you never know how long you're going to stay in whatever phase. And what I've learned about that cycle is I kind of went back through it, right? But I went back through it and it wasn't as deep. Meaning that, like, when I went through that depression, I revisit those moments and I'm like, I know how to get out of it now. Right. I know personally for me, when I start getting into money blocks and I'm talking about that stuff, I have a team, right? I can be like, all right, here's what's going on. Let's strategize about this. Or how do we talk about, I feel like I don't want anybody to ever feel like you go through it once and you're good. It's like, it's why we put people at our table, to make sure that we have things in place, because you might just ping down a little bit. But my goal is to not stay there too long. That's why I have these people at the table with me. And that's why I still work with you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And so I'm super excited. Can you tell a little bit about where is the spinoff? Where's it going to land? It's not going to still be on Amazon, right?
No. And so this is only DaJuan's my thought on this. It's actually on Freevee, which is an app, right? One of the things they couldn't do with Prime, nobody has said this, I've just thought this, is you couldn't have commercials. Right. And so if you don't have commercials, you don't have advertising dollars, then we're paying for it. It's all coming out of Amazon. So they got another app. Freevee is owned by Amazon, by the way. So it's an app with advertising dollars. And so the spin-offs, because they have 3 total, will be on Freevee. And, Bosch Season 2 Legacy, Bosch Legacy Season 2 is what I'm on for a couple episodes, and I will be on that. And I cannot confirm or deny that I will be doing other spin-offs from that. So...
All right. Very exciting to keep to wait and see what will happen.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You'll probably know before everybody else will, but
well, let's just wrap up and talk about what is one thing that you can say to somebody who may have been in the same boat as you, right? Like been on a series, and then perhaps the series ends, or in some particular cases, sometimes what I've seen is and I've worked with a couple of actors who've actually got on a season, got on a show, and then for some reason they wanted to switch out the character, right? And so then they get dropped from the show, and that actually feels probably even more like what did I do, right? What did I do wrong? And that probably feels even different, than the experience you had. So what would you say to an actor who has had those experiences and then they're in the midst of the grief?
Wow. Again, I am a firm believer, do not go into your mind alone. Right. I have a therapist, I have a money coach, I have a coach, there's a big table, but with bigger situations, it calls for more people. And so that's why I make sure I have that. So don't go into your mind alone. Number one, I try also I think more than anything, no matter where you are in your career. So if you're just starting, or you're wherever you are, you've been on a show like I have, or you're wherever you're talking about, just remember that this is a business. And there are a lot of business decisions that are being made that see if we can sell Tide. Right? They're selling commercials. Is this show going to work? They're really just trying to get their show to keep going so they can sell Tide. And, sometimes it has nothing to do with us. Sometimes it's cultural. Sometimes it's not. Whatever that is, just remember that this is a business, and not to get your self-worth wrapped up in that. That's number two, is what I would say. And number three, if it feels personal to you, just remember that you can mourn it, go through that, really, really grieve it, mourn it, and then get on the other side of that. Because these moments are not bigger than our dreams, our hopes, and our visions. And that's important. If you go back to those things, your dreams, your hopes, your visions, then it's like, yeah, this effing sucks. This moment sucks. And I'm going to feel it. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to be in it. But also, there's people in Bangladesh or Kentucky or, Australia. There's people who want to be changed by your artistry. So I'm very, very, very aware and present to what I'm doing and what I'm bringing to the artistry.
Mm-hmm. All right. So if somebody wanted to work with you and really help themselves to kind of get to that next level, get on set and do all the things, how do they find you?
Oh, you can find me on, anywhere on the socials at thinkbiggercoaching.com, thinkbiggercoaching.com, or on the internet, Wait, the socials are just Think Bigger. The internet is thinkbiggercoaching.com. I sound so old. I'm like the interwebs. So anywhere Think Bigger Coaching, I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. I just want to say, if I have 10 seconds to say to you, thank you for literally just sticking with me, because there is a lot of times when I get on, a group call or a one-on-one call with you, or any of those calls, and I'm like, the sky is falling. The sky is falling. And you never match my energy. You're just like, let's just take a breath. Let's just breathe and let's start working and unpacking with me. And I think that is so critical, because I can do that for my actors when I'm working with them, and to have it done for me and to have someone help me walk through some of these dark places, it's just, I want to make sure I get it on audio. Thank you. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you. And I believe that we all need our own coaches to work with, because sometimes we can't even see the things for ourselves. And then it's much bigger in our own heads. Right. Yeah, it is all the time, So thank you again for this conversation. And then for everyone who's watching, if you're interested in the Thriving After Job Loss Retreat, the details will be in the comments or on my blog. Thank you.
Everywhere. We're going to put it everywhere.
Yes. Bye.